Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah, good. Welcome. This is Hare Krishna Valley. If you haven't realized that yet, then this is the place where the Hare Krishnas like to chant and dance. This is called the Great Chant of Deliverance. When we do the chanting, it merges us in spiritual bliss. It makes us feel connected to the Supreme, to a higher power, and it makes us transcend our bodily attachments in this world. Our ego, our mind, everything that binds us in this world, that is transcended through the chanting. So the chanting is actually the way to make the real United Nations in the world. Just like the United Nations was formed at the end of World War II, we made the United Nations. But every year there's more and more nations forming. And people aren't coming more together, but there's also separatism still. It's not really achieving like a universal brotherhood. So the chanting can do that. So we invite Donald Trump and I don't even know who the other... What's that? Scott Morrison. That's Australia, right? Yeah, Scott Morrison and whoever. They can all come here and chat with us. And if you don't feel a universal brotherhood and sisterhood, we'll give your money back. Donald. Like that. But no, it works actually. It creates United Nations. Even every year I go to India for retreats. And people come from Israel, Iraq, countries that are actually enemies. And everyone just serves harmoniously together. They chant together, they serve together side by side. There's no friction, there's no animosity. All those things are dissolved. They're just bodily concepts. But if we transcend the bodily concept, the concepts of the mind, of the ego, then if we get onto the platform of the soul, which is what the mantra does, it brings us to the platform of the soul, then we can relate to everyone very respectfully and peacefully, and there's no problems. So we've been here for about 30 years. 1987 we brought this farm. We had another farm up near Mildura, near Renmark, on the Murray River. We had 20,000 acres. It was a big farm, big one. But it was a little bit too far away from Melbourne and Adelaide. It was like a joint farm between Melbourne and Adelaide. So then they sold that one, they decided to move closer to Melbourne, so then we brought this property. And when we brought this property, it was just a dairy. That was all that existed. That's on the other side of the property. And then we built this building as a school, and we ran a Hare Krishna school here for our kids. And that ran for 7 years. And the government was closing small schools around country Victoria in the mid-90s, so we lost our funding. And unfortunately the school closed. And we have another school, which is near Byron Bay. We have another farm, 800 acres at Murwillumbah, which is up near northern New South Wales. And most of our community moved up there. And the kids have been in that school for about 40 years. We have about 70, 80 kids in that school. And that's been running. But then this school, it became quiet here actually after the school closed for about 10 years. And then 10 years ago, myself and Mani Griva, Mani was the guy who was leading the chanting. We came here about 10 years ago to revitalise the place because we had 200 acres sitting out here in the middle of the Otways and there wasn't a lot happening. So we came here and then I renovated this school building, turned it into like a retreat centre. So now we run retreats for the benefit of people. People come here all the time for retreats and we have an open day once a month. That's where you are now, at our open day. And we look after cows, which is very important. And on the other side of our farm we have a goshala, which means a cow barn, and we look after cows. This is an ahimsa dairy. It's one of the only places in Australia where the cows are born and they die without fear of anything, which is rare these days, if you know anything about the industries in the world these days. It's ironic because next door there's a beef farmer. Just on the other side of the fence, and all these cows come over to our fence all the time, and they used to jump over the fence, but then he had to build a bigger fence to stop them, because they know over here is a sanctuary where the people and the animals and everyone lives peacefully. There's no fear here, whereas on the other side everyone's slaughtered in due course of time, so it's a very fearful situation. So this is unique. We're teaching people how to live with the animals. You don't have to kill them, you can live with them. You don't have to kill human beings, you can live with them. It's unique. And we also grow organic vegetables because we're trying to become as self-sufficient as possible, which is a lot of work. There's only 8 of us living here full time. We need about 40 people to make it more self-sufficient, but we're working on it. So does anyone have any questions you would like to ask a member of the Hare Krishna movement? You have my undivided attention. We'll try to satisfy your questions you have. Young lady, you had a question?
I have that photo at home over there.
You have a photo like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm from India.
And you're from India? Okay. Do you know who that is?
Krishna.
Krishna. Do you know who Krishna is?
Yep.
Who is he?
He's a god.
He's a god. Okay. According to the ancient teachings of India, he's actually God. He's not even a god, but he's actually God. Hinduism these days, if you meet someone, technically I'm a Hindu. Hare Krishnas are a part of Hinduism. So, but I'm a monotheistic member of Hinduism. In other words, we believe in one supreme being. Most people these days, if you ask them if they're Hindus and you ask them what do you believe, they're pantheistic. They believe in many gods. You know, Krishna, Rama, Shiva, Ganesh, Durga. It goes on and on and on. Yeah, so many gods. There are so many gods. But according to the ancient teachings, and this is important to know, according to the ancient teachings of the Vedas, the ancient teachings from India in Sanskrit, it says there is one supreme entity. Ete chamsakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This is the original Sanskrit. So it says that Krishna is the original form of God, and the others are the expansions of that original form. Or another way of looking at it is, like in Australia, we have a Prime Minister, and then you have cabinet ministers who work on behalf of the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister has the ultimate power within the nation. So similarly, it is described that Krishna is the original form. He has the power, and then the others are what we call assistants, the god of the wind and the sky and these different things. So it's important to know these things, to get this correct understanding, if we want to transcend this world once and for all. Steve, some people just turned up. Can you just... Yeah, some people just came. They might not know what's going on, so if you want to invite them in, if they want to come in. Does anyone else have a question?
So, how did you... What was your pathway to follow?
To come to this?
Yeah, to come to this point.
How do I come to this? How do I become a Hare Krishna? I was born in Melbourne, and I grew up in Melbourne just like most people, just like a regular kid. I was a tennis player, so I was in the Linton Tennis Academy. So I was working up the ranks on the amateur circuit. And I left school when I was 18, I think, went through high school. And then I joined an acting academy. There were members of the actor studio in New York. They were in Melbourne, and they were running acting workshops, so I was studying acting with them. I wanted to be an actor. And I was doing modelling to make money. And then that was very satisfying and very deep. So I was doing modelling just to make money. And then I had like an inner yearning. I lost one of my brothers in a tragic accident. So then I had like some spiritual awakenings. And I decided that I needed to understand the meaning of life. I had to go deeper to understand. So I started reading everything from Eastern philosophy, Buddhism and Baha'i, and so many different philosophies and so forth. And then I read the Hare Krishna books, and they seemed to give the most complete understanding of what it's all about. So then I went to the temple in Melbourne, in Albert Park. We have a temple, and I went there and I said to them, I want to move in, I want to become a monk. And they said, well, you can't just move in, you just walked in. You know, we haven't met you before. And I said, well, I'm going to come every day, so better I just stay here. So I convinced them, and then they let me move in. And then I studied for 8 years as a monk, what we call a brahmachari. I used to wear the saffron robes, like the orange robes, and dance around. So I used to travel around the world, and I taught and learned in different places, particularly in India, studied in ashrams, and got initiated by my guru and like that. And then I was sent to Adelaide. I became the president of the temple in Adelaide. I ran that for a couple of years, and then I came back. And then the last 10 years, from about 2000 to about 2007, I concentrated on teaching in the temple in Melbourne. So I just ran classes and philosophy courses, which I still do there. And then about 12 years ago, they asked me and my wife to come down here and run a retreat center, so we moved down and did like that. So yeah, I just felt that I needed something more in life. Something more. Most people are just kind of going along with the flow of mainstream society. How's it going for everyone? Ends up feel perfectly happy in your life at this point in time?
We're here, aren't we?
You got a 50-50. What was that?
We've come here, haven't we?
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, you need places like this so people can... I mean, no one said they're perfectly happy, so I'm presuming no one's perfectly happy. So, if you look at mainstream society, it seems to be going in the wrong direction. Okay, so you agree. Yeah. It seems to go. I'm trying to be as polite and positive about the whole situation, but it doesn't seem to me it's working. So it seems we need, from what I can see and what the ancient teachings of India teach, is that we need a spiritual underpinning in society. Just like, I go to India every year, I spend a month there on pilgrimage. I take people there and show them around. And when you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is you go to the temple. Right? And we do like what we just did then. That's what we do at 4:30 in the morning. That's how we start our day. We dance and chant around. Right? And we absorb ourselves in spiritual vibration. So there's no spiritual underpinning in society anymore. Like there's not a spirituality within people's day-to-day lives. Do you want to just close that door? Just push it. Okay. Yeah, because it keeps going back and forth. If you need more air, you can just open one of the windows if you're a bit hot. So we just need some spiritual underpinning in society because it's missing. People just get up, they just have a coffee, and then they just turn on the television or do whatever they do. There's not like a spiritual. We get up, there's like a sadhana. Sadhana means like a practice. We get up and we get absorbed, we do some meditation and, read. Like this morning I was reading some ancient teachings and different things. So that seems to me why society is off track, because there's not like a spiritual kind of practice within people's day-to-day lives that needs to be there. It's seen. You can see like meditation is becoming extremely popular now. So, people need to practice these things on a regular basis, and people are finding the benefit of doing these things. So that's why I did it. I just felt like I needed more in life. It's pretty good so far. Any other questions anyone has? Yes, sir.
Roger, you mentioned you read the other readings, spiritual readings, before you joined the Hare Krishnas. What was it that appealed to you the most? As in, having read and tried something else.
What was it?
What was it that resonated with what you're looking for?
Out of what I read? Like what was the...
Through the Hare Krishnas. Why, how do you find that connection?
Like why do they choose this over other things? Like that? When I was young, I used to get up on a Sunday morning and go to a Sunday school. I was about 8 years old. And my parents, at the time, my mother was an atheist. She's not now, but she was. And my father just, they just sleep in on Sunday. But I used to get up and go to Sunday school because I wanted to know. Even since I was young, I always wanted to know deeper things. Does anyone remember that show back in the 1970s, Kung Fu?
Oh, yeah.
With David Carradine? That? Hands up, anyone remember? Yeah, there's a certain generation that remembers. All the young people, you don't know. But you can look up anything now, just look it up. It's probably on YouTube or something. It's a good show. So when he was young, he was called Grasshopper. He lived in a monastery. He was like a monk, a Kung Fu, a Shaolin monk. And he had a shaved head and he wore robes. And And I used to watch that when I was like 5 years old, and I used to think that's me. You know, when I saw like his shaved head and his robes, I thought that's me. Like, you know, it must be from a previous life. For a previous life, I must have lived in an ashram and done those things. Because when I was 5, I was just attracted. You know, whenever I saw a monk or something, I was just like, oh, you know, I can relate to that. So then, when I was 8, I used to go to Sunday school because I wanted to learn something. That was the only thing that was available. But then I got to about the age of 15, and then I started asking questions to the priest and so I started saying, so what about reincarnation? He said, well, that's not true. And I just said, well, of course it's true. It's the most obvious thing there is. You know, that reincarnation must, it's so logical. You know? And then they're telling me that, you know, if you don't follow this, you'll go and live with the devil. And there's no devil. You know, there's no guy who, you know, has horns and lives in a, what do they call a place where he lives? Hell or... There's no devil. You know, it's not like a rival to God. You know, God's all powerful. No one rivals. You know, there's no one who can give him trouble or... It doesn't make sense. So when I couldn't get good answers, proper answers, then I started reading Eastern philosophy. Eastern philosophy in general is deeper. So I started reading, you know, Buddhism and Baha'i and different things. And for me, I just found that when I read the Vedic literatures, these books that what we call the Hare Krishna books, I just felt like it was the most complete understanding. In Sanskrit, we have the word purna. Just like tomorrow is Purnima. Purnima means full moon. Tomorrow the moon will be full. Even tonight you'll see it'll be like complete. Purnima means complete. So I just felt when I was reading, it was like everything was complete. There were no questions. You know, when I was asking, there were no questions which were unanswered. And even to this day, because now I teach it myself, and I'm constantly questioning, but I don't find unanswered questions. And we need that. We need something intellectual. You know, if someone just tells you, you know, you have to do it, otherwise you'll go to hell, that's not very satisfying. Because A, there is no hell. I mean, hell's on this earth. You know, I've been to hell. You know, I've been to Africa, I've been to places, I've seen people living in terrible conditions. You know, there's no permanent place where you go and stay there forever, but there is places on this earth which are not good. So I just felt that I needed, you know, a complete understanding of questions, and when I read these books, and that's what I felt. So everyone has to do their own research. You know, Krishna, God gave you intelligence, so you have to use it. Find the truth, like we're discussing the other night with our good friend Tim. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, in the ancient teachings it says. Atato Brahma Jigyasa means now that you're a human, you need to understand the truth. If you're a human being, that's your ability. Right? The animals cannot understand the truth. You know Bronte, have you met our dog? You met her, Bronte? Someone want to go and get her and bring her in? No? I was joking.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too, but we don't let her in the temple. She's got a different mentality, but she can't understand what I'm talking about. Right? She'll sit there in front of me and I'll say, Bronte, in the Bhagavad Gita it says, you are not the body, you are the soul. She just looks at me, she's like, what's for dinner? That's all she thinks about. She's just a tongue, and she just travels, you know, looking for the next. She likes living here. We don't feed her meat. We only feed her whatever we eat. She catches rabbits and stuff herself. That's her business, whatever she does, you know. But we don't feed her meat. We just feed her vegetarian food. So she's got a very peaceful disposition, but she can't understand higher things. Humans can understand higher things. So we're meant to understand. And if you don't understand, you're wasting your human life. Otherwise, you're just like an animal. What do animals do? They only do 4 things, right? They eat, they sleep, they have sex, and they defend themselves. That's all they do. Okay? And what do humans do who don't try to find out deeper things? They just eat, they sleep, they have sex, and they just defend themselves. So you're no better than an animal. Right? But you're just doing it in a more sophisticated way, so you think, oh, I'm sophisticated. But according to the ancient teachings of India, it says, Dvipada Pashu. It says you're a 2-legged animal. If you don't use your faculty to discover higher things. So that's the point. So that's what I did with my life. I just tried to understand deeper things, because then I feel complete. You know, if I don't have like this deeper spirituality, what's the point? You know, otherwise, just worrying about who's going to win the AFL Grand Final, which is a lot of people. That's where they're at. You know, I met one guy. He said to me, Hawthorn on one of the teams lost a couple of years ago. He said, "Oh, I'm going to be depressed for 6 months." You know, and he was half serious. Like, what's that? It's just a couple of guys playing games. You don't take it seriously. But if you win, you win. You know, my team's Collingwood. You know, and they lost last year by 3 points. I wasn't depressed. I mean, it was for about 30 seconds. You know, it's like, oh no, you know, so close. Who cares? It was good fun. We lost. That's it. You know, next day I forgot about it. That's it. So, what's the big deal? So we have to understand what the goal of life is. Focus on the goal. You know, everyone's caught up in superficiality these days. The whole society, very superficial. You know, like Will Smith says, we work hard all week so that we can, on the weekends, we can go and buy things that we don't need to impress people that we don't like. Very good. Very successful. Congratulations. Your life is successful now. So, who asked that question? Oh, you did. Did that answer? Okay. I couldn't even remember what the question was, but no. I hope we answered it. Thank you. Please come again. Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
Yeah. So you said before that when you're talking to the priest and you asked him about reincarnation, and it made sense to you. How does it make sense to you?
Reincarnation?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between the soul and the body. Everyone understands that, right? Hands up, you understand the difference between your body and your soul? Most of you? Yeah. Well, if you're not putting your hand up, you either don't care or you don't want to put your hand up or like that. But no, there's a difference between the body and the soul. The body is what we call yantra. Yantra means machine. Just like most of you came in a car today. So you're not the car. You're not a Mercedes, you're not a Volkswagen, you're not a Holden. Right? It's a vehicle. So the body is just a vehicle. Right? And as soon as my soul leaves my body, then there's no life. The soul's in the body, it comes to life. Same as the car. You get in the car comes to life, moves around. No one's in the car, doesn't do anything. It's just a machine. Right? So even in this body we are reincarnating. Right? According to science, every 7 years, every cell in your body, right, changes. Right? So I'm 49. Right? So what's 7 sevens?
49.
49. Oh, 49. So I've got 7 different bodies already. I don't have a single cell that I had 49 years ago. I don't have a single cell that I had 7 years ago. Except maybe the brain cells. Right? Some people say the brain cells don't change, but everything else in the body, it changes. So that's, in Latin, the word reincarnate. Carna means flesh. Reincarnate means to change flesh. So I'm changing flesh in this life. The soul is the same, but the body is completely changing. So that's reincarnation. So when you die, if you're not self-realized, then you just go into another body. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, the ancient teaching, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, whatever you remember at the time of death, then that's what you will attain. Right? When you die, your life will flash before your eyes, and whatever you're most attached to, that's what your mind will latch onto, and then that will lead you to your next destination. So if you're thinking of Krishna, you're thinking of God, that's why we do the chanting and everything, to make us fix on Krishna and God. If you're thinking like that, at the end of your life, you can transcend and go back to the spiritual world where you don't have to be born again. We don't want to reincarnate. But if you're not a pure soul, then you will reincarnate again and again and again. So that's the system. Does that answer what you...
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
How could we become a pure soul?
How can you become a pure soul? You have to change your desires. So many people have contaminated or material desires. You look around the world, everyone's materialistic. Not everyone, but a lot of people are very materialistic. Society is very materialistic. And material desires. If that's in your consciousness, then you keep reincarnating. Right? But if you change your desires to the desire to want to serve Krishna, God, like that, then at the end of your life you can transcend this world and then you can become a pure soul. So we have to change our motivations, our desires. Desire is what binds us in this world, but desire is also what liberates us from this world. So we just have to purify it, because you can't stop desire, that's the point. You want to add anything?
How can we understand who Krishna is?
How we understand who Krishna is?
And how can we understand, how can we understand Krishna?
What do you mean, specifically?
So to be liberated, we've got to change our desires from worldly desires to desiring to serve Krishna. But how can we desire to serve someone that we don't know? So how can we know this person, Krishna? Who is this person?
Who is this person? Okay. Well, according to the ancient teachings, he's the supreme being, who we call God, or however you want to call it, the supreme being or the supreme entity. So how do you get to know the person? There's so much written about Krishna, so much knowledge. There's like this morning I spent an hour studying. So there's so much knowledge. I mean, we even have a book called Krishna Book. It's like if you want to get to know, pick someone randomly, someone famous from history. Say Errol Flynn. Has everyone heard of Errol Flynn? Yeah, most people like that. So before I became a Hare Krishna, I read a biography about Errol Flynn. So I know quite a bit about his life. I read the biography, I know what he did, who he was, what his desires were, the good that he did, the mistakes that he's made, those things. So if you want to know about Krishna, the knowledge is given. If you want to know about God, the knowledge is given. That's one reason why I became a Hare Krishna, because there's authentic and detailed knowledge about Krishna, about God, which is rare to find in this world. It's not so easy to find, but that knowledge is available. It is there. Just like there are so many books you can read, and they can tell you so many different subject matters. So once again, it comes down to our desire. What is it we want to know? So if you want to, I had a desire my whole life to know more about Krishna, to know more about God. But there's not so much information in different places. I was always looking, but I couldn't find enough information. Even my guru, a number of years ago, he met one of the cardinals from the Catholic Church. And then he said to the cardinal, can you tell me what God does in heaven? And the cardinal said he sits on a throne. And then my guru said, does he ever get off the throne? And the cardinal said, I don't know. Like that. But we can tell you what he does all day. Like these pictures show what he does all day. He dances, he has picnics, he plays on the bank of rivers, he tends his cows. There's so much information which is given. So if you want to know these things, we can give you the books which help you understand. Yeah. So just...
How does Krishna explain the creation of the world? I know that's pretty deep.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. If you look on the back shelf, you see all the books. On the second shelf, the two books which are bluish on the left-hand side, they're called the third canto of the Bhāgavatam. They have quite a detailed description of creation. The description of creation we're familiar with is from the Bible. That's very simplistic. On day 1 there was this, day 2 there was that, day 3 there was that, day 7 God was really tired so he had a rest. Right? It's not very deep or detailed. But at least it tells us there is a creation. But in the third canto it gives a detailed description of creation. But he does it in a couple of moments. He's God. It doesn't take him 7 days to make something. He just goes, there it is. There it is, it's gone. There it is again. It's there and it's gone. He can do whatever he wants. So he's all powerful. But as that's happening, those couple of moments, it gives a very detailed description of how things form So it says, first of all, when this world, because his world doesn't get created, it's always there. This world gets created and it gets destroyed and gets created. It's like a cyclical situation. It says when this world gets created, the first thing that comes is ego, which is interesting because that's everyone's biggest problem. So ego comes first. It says from ego then, just let me think, intelligence comes. So then from ego, intelligence, because then you need to work out how to do things. Then mind comes, because mind is how we enjoy everything. And then ether. Ether means like space or where sound bounces off. Then air manifests, and then fire, and then water, and then earth. Earth is the most solid or the most gross. So it's an interesting description. Earth is perceivable by all 5 of our senses. Right? You can touch earth, you can hear earth, you can taste earth, you can smell earth, and you can, what's the other one? See it, hear it. Yeah, so all 5 senses can perceive it. Water's more subtle. Right? Water can be tasted, seen, touched, heard, but not smelt. Right? Water doesn't have a fragrance, so it's more subtle. So from earth, then it's more subtle. Fire is even more subtle. You can see it, you can touch it, but you cannot taste it, and it doesn't have a fragrance. There's no smell. Pure fire. I mean, obviously, things burning in the fire. And then air is even more subtle. You can't see it. We can hear it, we can feel it, but the other senses cannot perceive it. And then ether is even more subtle, because it can't even be touched, but it can be heard by sound. And then you go back even more subtle, and there's the mind, even more subtle is intelligence, even more subtle is ego. So it gives a detailed description of creation, which is quite interesting. So,
I guess with all religions, I find it hard to conceive how people read all these books and follow them and believe in them when all these books are being written by men, not an all-loving, powerful God, because I believe there's all-powerful, loving God. Why doesn't he stop all these atrocities?
it's a very good question.
That's a big one, isn't it?
It's a big one, yeah. That's a good one and a big one. And yeah, I mean, I ask all these questions. As we said before, life is for asking these questions and getting the answers for these questions.
Yeah.
And as my friend asked, why did I become a Hare Krishna? Because I got the answers to the questions. Otherwise, if you can't get the answers, the whole thing's meaningless.
So I guess it's believing the books that have got the answers in them.
You have to, it's like anything. So you buy a vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner comes with an instruction manual. You trust the instruction manual is going to tell you how to run the vacuum cleaner. Otherwise, why do they come in the box? Unless there's some guy in Taiwan who's like putting false instructions in there. When you get it, they don't actually, it's like, you trust that it's going to work. So this world's a big creation. Like it's basically a big machine. It works like clockwork. Like the sun orbits perfectly. If the sun was, a few thousand kilometers closer or further from the Earth, it would have massive effect. Who set the whole thing up? So the whole thing, it's like a huge, perfectly running machine. So this must have been set up by an intelligent design. Even scientists are saying this these days. There's an intelligent design to the universe. They won't say God, but they'll say there's an intelligence behind it. So there must be something there. So we understand that this is a big machine. There must be an instruction manual when this world is given how to operate it. It must be there, right? If we haven't read it or discovered it yet, okay, maybe that hasn't happened, but it must be there. So we believe that these ancient books, which are right there on the shelf, they are the instruction manual of how it works. They give a very rational, logical, and intricate understanding of how the whole thing operates. So the question you asked is, why does he let all the suffering go on? Originally we were all with him in the spiritual dimension, or heaven, or however you like to describe it. We call it Vaikuntha. So originally we were there, but Everyone is given independence and free will. The essence of life is love. Right, we all know that. Love can only be given freely, for free will. You can't force someone to love you. Just like, sometimes I have kids here when I'm speaking. I say to the kids, do you love me? And they say, no. And I say, well, I'm a monk. Well, no. You can't force someone to love you. It has to be given on that. So Krishna's the same. God's the same. He's not going to force us to love him. So he gave us independence, and at some point in time, all of us, really intelligent people, decided to have our own space, just like your kids, right? My daughter's 14 at the moment. You might have seen her earlier on, she was here. So she's kind of on the side. She's a Hare Krishna, but, she's 14, so she's going to Lawn High School, so she's a Hare Krishna, but, she's kind of interfacing with the material world as well, so she's not really working out where she stands. So, everyone comes here, she's a little bit shy to come out and dance in the middle. I was calling her to come out and dance, but if it was all Hare Krishnas here, she would, but it's not like, So it's free will. I can't force her, like, you've got to come and dance or something. It's got to be given naturally and freely. So all of us, we have that, someone else has just arrived. Steve, can you just speak? When we're in that world, some of us just want some space or some free time, so to speak. So he says, okay, go down there. Now, if it was perfect down here, we'd stay here forever, and that's not the point. The point is we're supposed to be back there in that loving relationship. So when we come down here, he says, okay, I'll give you your free space, but I'll also give you two conditions on the free space. Dukkalayam ashashvatam. Dukkalayam means it's full of suffering, and ashashvatam means it is temporary. But go and enjoy yourself. So how do you enjoy yourself in a place where there's suffering and it's temporary? Like, anyone who's intelligent is going to think, like, if I say to you, okay, go for a holiday, but it's going to be terrible, right? And you can only go for a few days and you have to come straight back. Like, what's like, everyone's like, why do I want to go there? But we all come here and that's the situation. So it's not that he wants us to suffer, but it's like, we're parents. We know it's like having a kid. You have to put discipline on the child, otherwise the child doesn't develop properly. See, kids are undisciplined. It's not good for them. So he's putting us in a situation where we'll wake up from the suffering and then we'll think, okay, there must be an alternative. So the suffering's not done out of malice or vindictiveness, but it's done out of a way to purify us and bring us back. So that's why that's our understanding, that's our explanation. Yeah. So these are the big questions in life. Why are we here? What's it about? Where are we going to? These are the big questions. So, when I read these books, it does give a logical understanding. I understand myself. I've come from that place. I've made a mistake. I need to rectify my consciousness. I need to go back. That's all it is. Is there suffering in this world? Yes, there is. Right? Is he forcing that on us? No. He's saying to us all day long, come back to me and then you don't have to suffer anymore. But if there's suffering in this world, the other thing to understand, according to the Bhāgavatam, the ancient teachings, this world is swapna. Swapna means it's a dream. Right? So the soul is not actually experiencing the suffering. The suffering is only pertaining to the body and the mind. It's not actually us who is suffering. It's just like if you're dreaming, right, and in your dream you're being eaten by a tiger or something. Okay, in your dream you're suffering. As soon as you wake up, there's no tiger. So where's the suffering? So same here. Like, okay, we're saying, I'm bankrupt. I've got cancer. Like all these bad things that happen to us. But actually, it's not actually here. It's over to the body and the mind like that. It's just temporary.
Do you believe that suffering is to teach us lessons?
Yeah, it's to teach us to go back to the spiritual world. Suffering is good. Suffering is not bad. Suffering is good. It's like my daughter, sometimes I say, hey, stop it. Like that. Is that good or bad? That's good. Does she may not like it initially, but she knows that's good for her.
I guess I was talking about suffering, not just sort of little things like that. I mean, the atrocities of children starving to death and people murdering in mass murders and things like that.
Yeah.
There's no sort of lessons there, really.
No, there are lessons. There are lessons.
Not for the kids.
But then you have to understand reincarnation and karma. Because if you understand reincarnation and karma, no one is innocent in this world. Like, if there's a mass shooting, like in America, there's a mass shooting every week. Right? God bless America. Right? The best society. You know, it's interesting. So it's only America who tells us they're the number one nation in the earth. They're not the number one nation. If you look in education, they're number 37 in the world. If you look in healthcare, they're not the number one nation. They tell everyone they're number one, but they're not. You know, Donald tells everyone, well, they're not, not number one. And they have a mass shooting every week, right? No one else, I mean, how often does Australia have mass shootings? I mean, we had Port Arthur in '96, have we had, and then the Link Cafe, there was a...
Yeah, the Link Cafe.
Yeah, I mean, was there something else? We don't have them.
Hoddle Street was another one. Hoddle Street.
Yeah, Hoddle Street, yeah, that was in late...
And Queen Street.
And Queen Street.
Oh,
yeah, the guy, you know, drove the car and everything. So it's rare that these kind of things happen. In America, it happens every week. Now, there's many reasons why that needs to be dealt with in different ways, but if we look at it philosophically, there is no one, you know, if someone shoots me, that's not by chance. If I die in a car accident tomorrow, which I could, not that, you know, I think I will, but I could, that's not by chance. Everything that happens that's our karma, right? We haven't all been perfect. We've been here for thousands of lifetimes in this world. We haven't all been perfect. We haven't all been good the whole time, right? You know, I'll get to it. One of the reasons why, you know, we, like, after lunch, we'll go over and take them to see our cows, and, you know, one of the reasons we're vegetarians and we don't kill animals. If you kill an animal, right, even in the Bible it says, you know, but in our teachings, it's the same as killing a human being. If you kill a cow and a human, it's considered equal in terms of karma. And people are just eating, you know, McDonald's and things all day long. And then when something bad happens, they think, oh, you know, I'm a good person, why did that happen? No. You know, we have to take accountability, that's the point. That's karma. Right? In reincarnation, everything will catch up. So, you know, these bad things are happening. People have to change the way they're living. That's the point. Yes, first I'll take it, Kelly.
Just on that,
Yeah.
when you guys were talking about kids and stuff, mass shootings, school shootings, all that type of thing, when the kids die, they get shot or whatever, so is that their reincarnated soul? Like, why do karma for kids, how does that work?
Because in the previous life they were an adult.
But what if they didn't believe in reincarnation?
You can say you don't believe in reincarnation, it doesn't change whether it's true or not. Like, I can say I don't believe in gravity. Does that mean anything? I don't believe in gravity. I can just float, watch. I'm floating, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but it's something that you can see.
Yeah, but I can see reincarnation. I can see it. I can see it. I can see when things happen in people's life, I can say, okay, that's because of your previous life. Even for me, I can understand. If something happens to me, I can say, oh, that's because of my previous life. I can see it. If people choose not to see it, well, that's their... Okay, gravity's easier to see. But you can say you don't believe in it, it still works. You can say I don't believe in time. Time, we're all controlled by time. Right? Go back 5 seconds, you can't. So, okay, reincarnation, but it's just another element of the creation, that's all. Time's there, gravity's there, reincarnation, they're all laws. So it's much easier to accept these things. If you accept it, your life becomes so much more peaceful.
It's interesting because I've worked in a Catholic health service, and I've seen midwives there that are supposedly good Catholic nuns, and they will say when a baby is born, by the way the baby reacts in it, that this is an old soul. And it's interesting because their teachings don't take into account reincarnation, and yet they're telling the mother of that newborn child, this is an old soul. Very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's just historical. If you look in the 3rd century, the Roman Emperor Constantine took out large sections of the Bible. I mean, Jesus taught reincarnation. It's quite obvious. You know, and it's even there. If you look in the Bible, there's one point where Jesus meets a leper, I think it is, and then the apostles say to Jesus, no, he was blind. He said, is he blind because of what he has done or what he has done previously? It's there. It's in the Bible. And Jesus said, it does not matter. This is an opportunity to show a miracle of God, and then he cures his blindness. So, I mean, it's there. He didn't deny it at the point. So, yeah, they took a lot of things out of the Bible at one point. We understand. If you believe reincarnation, it just makes life a lot more logical. Everything makes sense. And you become a lot happier. Because otherwise you spend all your time, oh, why did this happen? Why do you understand why it happens? Right? And now what do we do about it? We change it. We change it. We can change a lot of the problems in the world if everyone just has knowledge. It's like driving a car. If you don't know how to drive a car, you're going to have a lot of problems. Right? If you don't know how to live in this world spiritually, you're going to have a lot of problems. If you know how to, you don't have so many problems. So, someone else have their hand? Another? Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking about this point on karma.
Yeah.
So, you were saying that anything that happens to somebody is a result of their karma. And you were giving the example of somebody has a car crash, it's karma. So we see like in third world countries where road safety laws are very poor and maybe where they're driving very old vehicles, it's naturally leading to a lot of casualties. Whereas if you look in Australia or other countries, the casualties are far lower because the road safety laws are much more, they are followed. And so the point I'm getting at is everything deterministic or fatalistic? So what's the balance? You can see by...
Yeah, the balance is according to your karma. Were you born in India or were you born in Australia? That's your karma. Right? If you're born in India, you have to accept when you're born there that half the traffic's not going to go on the right side of the road. That's just the way it is there. Like, I go there every year. Like, the first time I ever gone there, we got in the car, we started driving, we start driving down the wrong side of the road, until we moved on the right side. And there's cars getting there, and then I see people do it all the time. It's insane. 800 people a day die on the roads in India. And what do we have in Australia? 500 a year or something. Because it's so that's your karma. Are you born in Australia? You're born in India. Right? Are you going to be born in a situation where the car's driving a certain way or not? And then people live their whole life in India and they get through the whole thing. I mean, I believed in God since I was young, but the first time I went to India, right, it all just made sense. Right? Because I was sitting in the car, I was doing my chanting, doing my meditation. We're driving the car. There were so many things coming from every different direction. Right? I really had to believe in God.
So just on that, like here we have the PSC, right? They're basically looking after road safety. So do we say that, okay, is it just karma? They shouldn't make policies and enforce those policies and have road safety campaigns which will reduce road trauma. So should that be avoided, or so what's the balance? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, the balance.
We see that is making a significant difference.
Yeah, so that's just using your intelligence, that's all. That's just using your intelligence. I mean, if a society got really intelligent, we'd probably stop cars altogether, right? Because we just go back, like there's an old guy who lives down here in Winchelsea, the town which is just down the road here. He's 90, right? So 50 years ago, he used to go from Winchelsea once a week to Geelong on his horse and cart. Took him 2 hours, right? Got there, tied the horses up, they all got watered and fed, got all his supplies for the week, got back on, and and he never had any crashes. You don't hear people dying because their horse and the cart like smashed into each other or something like that. We could all do that again. That would be the best. That would be the best. But, because that's not going to happen. Because
Wouldn't
the
we
way...
be causing the animal suffering by making it pull the cart?
Sorry, what was that?
Wouldn't we be causing suffering to that animal? Or making
Not
it
at
pull
all,
the cart?
because what's happened in the world, everyone's become very sentimental about animal husbandry. Very sentimental. They don't touch the animals, don't hurt. Vegan people all the time now. They say to us like, don't do anything with your cows. Don't do anything. The bulls like to work. They like it. If you live with animals and you understand animals, they like to work. Horses like to work. They don't like to be mistreated, but they like to work. Right? So we're training our bullocks to pull things and do things. They like it. Otherwise, they just sit in the paddock all day. They go nuts. Imagine if you, put out in a paddock and you're not allowed to do anything. You go nuts. Animals like to work. People are so disconnected from animals now. They don't understand animal husbandry. The horses want to go to Winchelsea and back. They don't want to go too fast. They don't want to be whipped all the time. But they're just, nice, right? They enjoy that. That's natural. So like us, I like to run. I like to do things. I don't want to sit around in a paddock all day. Does that answer your question? Okay, here we go. Madam?
Yes. The question this young man asked, I had a similar query when I was a young girl, and my family, like grandparents and everybody, we are Krishna devotees, and I was talking about karma when I was a very young girl, and some people, they are in America, they are in Australia, their living standard are better than ours, something like that. And that time my parents told me, see, you are born in a family like where you are loved. We are providing you education, we are providing you everything which a child should get. On the other hand, there are some people, some kids who are born in families where they are unwanted, or a parent could be alcoholic or drug addict or not earning so that he could feed the child. So here the karma start with your birth. Whatever your karmas are, they will decide where you will be born. It could be a family, a country, a city, or whatever you are getting in your life, it starts with your birth. So it's your previous birth, previous karmas who will decide whether you will born in a rich family or poor, or a loving family, or in a family where you are unwanted, or in a good country. We are sitting here, we are talking about karma, we are talking about Krishna. There are people in Syria, there are people in Afghanistan. This time, so this is the difference of karma.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, so
He's been a Hare Krishna for 20 years. He knows.
So yes, I was like that,
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah. So I was just, yes, these are the questions we have when we start learning about Krishna.
The point is we need to know the answer to the questions.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
That's why if you read these books, you get the answer to the questions. Very simple.
Yes.
And in the books it says, Tadvidi pranipatina, pariprashnena sevaya, upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninas tattvadarshina. Tattvadarshina means you have to approach one who has seen the truth. In other words, you need a guru. If you don't have a guru, how will you understand the truth? Right? That's why it's necessary for people to have gurus. And that's one of the things which is missing in the modern world. People don't have gurus anymore. And that's a big problem because people don't have spiritual guides. If I need guidance, I can go to my guru and get guidance where to go.
You said in regards to the ancient texts having a lot of the information of Krishna, how do you get so much information in the ancient texts if the only way to support to be in touch with Krishna is to go to have a pure soul and to get to the spiritual plane? How do people get that if they just keep reincarnating in sleep, like I said?
How do we get the knowledge?
Yeah. Does Krishna get in contact somehow? Like, is he trying
to? According to our teachings, God himself was here on earth 5,000 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, he was actually here. He drops in from time to time.
Right.
to, and he actually speaks the Bhagavad. And you can read about it. It's like the book on the back shelf, the second shelf, the 4 blue books on the right-hand side. They describe about his life, and that's summarised in a book we have called Krishna Book.
Okay.
So it tells you he lived as a prince.
Yeah, so I've got no knowledge of Krishna. I just wanted to.
He came in his
story.
story.
Before. That is, like you said, you trust in these ancient texts, but how do they have the knowledge if he's...
Yeah, and then he sends his representatives occasionally. They drop in also.
Like a prophet, kind of.
Yeah, like a prophet.
Right.
Messiah, prophet,
Yeah.
son. He sends them all down once in a while to give us a bit of a move along. Jesus will drop in and say, he wasn't too impressed with what was going on in the temple. So he went through the temple, smashed it all down. Said, why have you got a mark?
Some kind of intervention.
Yeah, he said, he said, why have you got a marketplace in the temple? It's like here at the Hare Krishna, it's like, you guys come here and we've got someone there and they're, selling things to you. Come on, buy it. That's not the move. We've got a shop there. We just say to people, go to the shop. We don't sit there at the shop going, if you buy this, you'll get a really good deal. It's like,
Better come and buy more.
Yeah, well, what's the point? So, either he comes himself or he sends his representatives.
Right.
So he sent Muhammad, he sent Lord Buddha, he sent Krishna, he sent Moses, you could say. He comes himself as Krishna. So, he drops in whenever necessary to help us. Right? And he leaves the teachings. And there's other sages as well. In our tradition, you go back. Our tradition goes back a long time, but 5,000 years it's dated. That's when the Bhagavad Gita was given to us. All the other teachings of the world, like Christianity, is only 2,000 years. Buddhism is said to be 3,000 years. But we're talking about 5,000 years. And when you get past, historically, when you get past 3,000 years, everything becomes very obscure. Like people don't really know, like what was going on the earth. After even 3,000 years, it becomes patchy, and then after that, it becomes very obscure. Whereas our teachings speak about 5,000 years in great detail. What it was like, what was going on. The earth was more civilized. But we think we're progressing. We're actually devolving. Look at that's supposed to be evolution. Yeah, everyone's like,
Would you believe in evolution then, really? If is that kind of similar to Christianity that there was only 6,000 years old then in Hare Krishna as well? Or
sorry, what was that?
Is it similar kind of belief that the world's only 6,000 years old then in Hare Krishna as well? Or?
Oh no, it's millions of years.
Yeah, right, but
millions.
And it came down 5,000 years. Is that?
Yeah, he dropped in, but then we go back millions of years.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Because we're creationists, so as we're describing, everything's created. The Earth, according to our teachings, the Earth has been civilized for millions of years.
Right.
It's not like 40,000 years ago people started coming out of caves and it was all like, and then someone went, oh, Bhagavad Gita. And then it's like they say, this is written in Sanskrit. If you know anything about linguistics, read Sanskrit. It's a grammatically perfect language. You take English as an example because we all speak English, right? So, how do you spell the word knife?
Oh, yeah. K-N-I.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Kanifi. There's no logic. Our language is illogical. Like our society is illogical. Like just take one word, it doesn't even make sense. Like Sanskrit's grammatically perfect. As it's written is how it sounds. That's normal. And we wonder why the world's so abnormal because we can't even get our language right. Can you pass me the Kanifi? I don't use Kanifi, I eat with my hands. Oh, okay. So it's like, it's a very strange society. So, according to these ancient teachings, it says that, the Earth has been populated for millions of years and civilized for millions of years. Whereas in the modern era, we just think, it's just new, it's only been around for, however long. Or like that. It's very obscure. They go back in history, they're not sure. We were all cavemen. Originally it was amoebas. Or if you want to go right back, there was a, have you heard of Richard Dawkins?
No.
He's one of the biggest scientists on the planet right now, but he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God.
Yeah.
So I saw an interview with him recently, and they were interviewing him. They said, so you said there's no God? And he said, yeah, there's no God. And they said, so it was either a big bang or a God? And he said, yeah, that's right. And he said, well, what was before that? Yeah, it had to be something before it. I mean, if we're going into logic. And he said, he said it is logical that there was something before it, but there's not. That's not logical. So you're telling me something's logical, but then you're saying that, just sit down, don't say anything, stop writing your books, because you don't actually know what you're talking about. Even though he's very intelligent, but, and this is the point, if the premise is not correct in the beginning, how's there any, like if you build a building, if we don't get the foundation right, the rest of the building's not going to work. So if you don't get the spirituality and like the correct understanding from the beginning, everything you build is going to, and then you see modern society, because it's all, and that's why atheism is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. And even evolution, Darwin, right? He's the father of evolution. He wasn't even convinced about it. If you read The Origin of the Species, like his original work, what's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 150. So he writes, the theory as it stands cannot be proven. He writes that. He wasn't convinced about it himself.
That's true.
Right? So like you're writing a thing, and now when I went to school when I was a kid, they taught us evolution like that was the way it was. Right? Even though they call it the theory of it, it's called a theory of evolution, but it's never been proven. It's not proven. Right? Otherwise we'd be pulling up these half ape, half men all over the earth. They're not there. Someone finds one out the back of Indonesia and some skull which is a little, and they say, oh, that's it, that's the missing link. Like it'd be all over the place. So it's not logical. And that's why atheism is dangerous, because in the Quran, it says, if you don't believe in God, just open your eyes. Look around. Like, if all this wasn't created by someone with vast intelligence, you can't either mathematically, it's impossible for things to just happen by chance. How did your body, how did it all happen by chance? We're far too complicated. It doesn't make sense. I mean, even that, does that happen by chance? Like, we know there's people working on this day and night to make that. It's complicated. And we're more complicated than that. It's like, like today we're cooking a feast, right? So we're going to eat in a few minutes. So, you can say, oh, great feast, who cooked this? Oh no, it's just in the kitchen. You think I'm nuts.
No, I agree. That's it.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just, carrying the answer. But that's the thing. And then, okay, everything else in life, okay, someone did it, right? Everything. Someone made this top, someone made this microphone, someone made the camera. Oh, but the universe? No, that was chance. Like, how logical is that? So it's very dangerous. Atheism is dangerous. And because then what does it really do at the end of the day? If we start putting this whole doctrine, it disconnects us from God, from Krishna. And if we did, that's the source of all problems. That's the source of all problems. Because I know myself, I wasn't happy until the age of 19. I mean, I believed in God my whole life, but I was like, but there's got to be more. There's got to be more. Now I can honestly say I'm complete. I'm not an enlightened soul, but I'm working on it. But at least I feel like, it's there. Because I'm connected to the... So if we get the beginning of the foundation correct, then everything will naturally grow. It's a very good question.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. Someone else in it? One more? We'll take one more. Yeah.
Is there like a collective karma? So you give an example. Say if I've never killed anyone, but I've eaten meat in my life. As in, I have never done it myself. As in, are we together as inhabitants, co-inhabitants?
Is there a collective karma? Yeah, there's collective karma. Yeah, you got enough of us doing stupid things that all comes together, and then it all blows up. That's collective karma. You see, like now, there's big problems. Like, we're in Australia, it's one of the most peaceful countries in the world, socially and everything at this point. The standard of living is the highest. Melbourne's the most livable city in the world. We're virtually sitting in the most comfortable material place on earth right now. But if you go to any of the other countries, some Middle Eastern countries, some of the African countries, there's horrible things happening. Even money, my friend who was chatting with me before, he was getting a train to Melbourne a while ago, and there was one Sudanese man who was there, come from Sudan, and Money was talking to him, and Money was asking, like, what's it like growing up there, because, people come here. Why do they leave those countries? And they showed him a picture. And the picture was someone naked, like a Sudanese guy with a gun. And he said, you know what this picture means? And Money said, what? He said, guns are cheaper than a pair of jeans in that country. It's easier to get a gun than their clothes, right? That's suffering. So this is like when it all comes together, when there's too much bad karma, then it all comes together and people have to be in these things. That's why we need to enlighten the whole planet so everyone can live up. People don't have to live like that. But you do have to change the way you live. And you do have to change your consciousness. And you have to stop killing animals. And you have to start being respectful to people and living properly, and then we can do away with a lot of the bad karma. Okay, one more.
So, do you think, so if we go on and follow the path of healing ourselves and any karmas that we may have had in our past lives, that we will just keep going on to better and better lives? Like if we head in that direction
Yeah, you can make things better, but that's not the goal. The goal is not to be born again. That's the point. That's not the goal. Yeah, you can do that. If you live a more enlightened existence, your lives will get better in the future. But that's not the goal. The goal is to go to the other place where there is no birth, there is no death, and everything is as it should be. Which means you have to develop devotion to Krishna, devotion to God. Right? And God's becoming less and less popular. Right? They did the census in Australia, was it last year? We did our census. A couple of years ago we did it. And there's a dramatic decrease in people on the census writing the religion that they belong to. Less and less people identifying with different religions. But interestingly, more and more of the Australian public and the world are becoming more spiritual. Right? We're not so much in the mainstream religion or institutions, we're becoming more spiritual. So the point is that everyone is looking for this connection. But because of the way even religions are getting crazy these days, like every time you turn on the news is about some religious problem, or so people are losing faith in the institutions, but we shouldn't lose faith in the actual person who's behind the whole thing. We say Krishna, and we say God. Like that. So that connection, we have to build faith in people, and that's why, as Hare Krishnas, even our movement has problems. From time to time something crazy happens, and we have to grab it and throw it out, or iron it out, or do whatever, deal with it. Occasionally individuals do very strange things. Right? But by and large, the pure teachings, at least as my commitment, is to try to live as purely as I can and teach people the pure teachings as much as we can, because that will actually solve the problems. So it's not just about cleansing yourself. These days everyone gets in this new age kind of, you just got to cleanse yourself and be pure and just like that. That's good, and that will reduce your karma, but it's not going to resolve all the problems. Because if you have to be born again in this world, that's a problem. Right? Are you enjoying your life completely this time around? Are you enjoying it completely?
Not completely.
That's right, not completely. And what will happen next time? Same thing, you won't be completely satisfied. So do you want complete satisfaction or incomplete satisfaction? It's obvious. You want complete. Complete's not in this world, it's another world, so you have to stop being born again. So improving yourself, that's good, and you'll have a better life. But if you want the best life, that's another thing. Okay, is that okay? Thank you all for coming. Please come again. You're very nice people. Like that. We're going to have a wonderful feast now. The boys have been cooking a nice feast. I think we're just going to eat outside. We do have a room at the end here, a dining room, so if you're too cold outside, you are welcome to go inside as well, but I think the weather's not so bad. We have a free magazine. It's very interesting. It tells you about the Hare Krishnas all over the world. It's quite an interesting publication, and if you want that, they're here, they're free. If you'd like to give a donation for the meal today, please leave it in the donation box. Please come again. Very nice having you all here. And after lunch, if you want to go and visit our cows, the very friendly, happy cows who live in 5-star accommodation on the other side of the farm, you can come over there and we'll feed them some bananas and carrots and things. Thank you very much.